Hi everyone. In this video, I will be discussing meditation, self-hypnosis, and positive affirmations. I will talk about these independently in just a bit, but I wanted to say that they are all interconnected, meditation being the core of it all. These are the only things that have been consistent with aiding in my recovery from mental illness. I'm surprised I don't hear more people, especially those with mental illness, talk about these things since it helps greatly. Even if you don't have a mental illness, it is beneficial to create a positive frame of mind and find inner peace. As I said, if it wasn't for this, I don't know where I would be. I would be much worse off than I am now. I still have a long way to go, but I have made such a positive turnaround over the past few years just by reworking my thinking and having a positive outlook on life. I am someone who believes in the power of thought, the subconscious mind. I believe and even know firsthand how powerful the brain is. Do not underestimate the power of the imagination. If you imagine something, it will come true. This is very true. If you believe in yourself, you can overcome it. I've heard of people curing themselves of serious illnesses, physical and mental, just with the power of thought alone. It is remarkable. It can completely change your life around. I first became interested in spiritual things about when I started to close myself off from everyone. So it was early teenage years that I started learning about all sorts of spiritual topics, meditation, self-hypnosis, positive affirmations, psychic abilities, chakras, and all sorts of other things. I'm not entirely sure what triggered my interest in it. I want to say it was a video game, actually. Never thought you would hear a video game changing someone's life, right? Well, it happened more than once, actually. Anyway, the game was PsyOps, the Mindgate Conspiracy, that came out in 2004 that was about psi abilities like telekinesis, pyrokinesis, remote viewing, and aura view. I became so fascinated by this and researched it and found how real it really was. In turn, I found out all about meditation and really started taking an interest in these things. Back then, I was quite naive since I didn't really know how to properly relax and allow things to happen like I do now, but it helped pave the way for how my life is today. Meditation, self-hypnosis, and positive affirmations all help with all sorts of things. It is something I do on a daily basis, generally twice a day, since it helps me understand and deal with things in a more practical manner. I like to think of it as a reset. When anxiety, stress, negative thoughts, and emotions start to set in, they need to be released somehow. It's sad when people direct this negativity into something even more negative. For me, I meditate and it changes my negative outlook to a positive one, and all those negative feelings go away. It is remarkable. With all the mental illnesses I deal with, it helps with practically all of them. For example, when it comes to mood disorder, like bipolar, meditation stables my mood. If I'm manic or depressed, it brings it to normalcy, which is tremendously helpful so I don't get out of control and end up hurting myself or anyone else. When I am dealing with delusions and hallucinations, such as in schizophrenia, I meditate and it brings me back to reality. It allows me to think clearly and rationally, calming my active thoughts. It has helped with trauma I have experienced, allowing me to realize what happened, why it happened, allowing me to acknowledge that it happened to me, but most importantly, allowing myself to not let it affect me any longer. Being able to overcome it and look at the positive it has brought instead of the negative. Relatedly, it helps with dissociation, allowing harmony in my life, allowing things to not be so disconnected to the point where I am no longer in control of my life. And it has helped with so much more too. It has shown me my purpose in this world, given me something to live for and what I must do to achieve that, one step at a time. Knowing your purpose in this world is such an amazing thing. I think our society today is so focused on immediate results with little to no work. People just jump right into medication thinking it will fix their depression or anxiety. It's even worse when people drink and do drugs to help them cope. In reality, medication and drugs fixes nothing. It only masks the problem. Getting to the root of the problem is the key, not covering it even more. It's a shame that many people do not know just how much meditation, self-hypnosis, and positive affirmations can really help change their life around, retraining themselves to not be affected by those things without the need for medication. Now, I'm not saying stop taking medication, because if you have to, you should. So I'm going to talk about meditation, self-hypnosis, and positive affirmations and how I incorporate them into my life. Many people have heard about meditation, but not many actually know what it is. Meditation means something different to everyone, and everyone can have a different experience. So no two people may experience the same thing. But I believe the common theme of meditation is to promote relaxation and develop patience. Early on, when I first started doing this, I would get frustrated that nothing would happen. I would have a goal in mind and try to make it happen. I ended up abandoning it for many years because I was fed up. I got back into it sometime later when I finally learned to have patience and allow. That is where some people, especially beginners, can go wrong. Over time, you will develop patience and allow things to happen rather than making them happen. This was a big obstacle for me back then, but I have recently learned it. The primary key of meditation is to allow. There is no need to force anything to happen. When you are relaxed and allow whatever to come to you rather than seeking it out, then you will have a much more enjoyable time. Of course, there are times when you will find it difficult to relax and calm your mind, but don't fret. Just because a session was not so great doesn't mean that you couldn't get anything out of it. There is nothing difficult about meditation, and it shouldn't be viewed as such. It should be an activity that is effortless. You can do it in any position, though lying down can be difficult since it is easier to fall asleep. Also, meditation is about being in the moment, observing the now and what you are experiencing at that time. That's important, to be in the moment. For example, if you hear a dog barking in the background that is bothering you, preventing you from relaxing and concentrating, it is only bothering you because you are consciously thinking about it. Perhaps thinking, why won't that dog shush so I can relax? When you begin to let it be and hear it without actually thinking about it, the bothersome barking will no longer be a problem. We can sometimes get so caught up with thought that we annoy ourselves. A tip for a quick relaxation is to breathe. I take a deep breath, hold it for 3 to 5 seconds, and exhale, and repeat several times. Almost instantly, my mind and body feel so much calmer. Another thing is to focus on your breath. Monitor how you inhale and exhale. After a little while, you will notice the breath without consciously breathing. Another helpful thing is to bring your attention to a word. I like the word relax. I envision the word in my mind and keep saying it to myself, sometimes out loud. You can count up or down, doesn't matter. This is extremely beneficial for me. I can count from 1 to 5, and by the time I am at 3, I have already relaxed quite a bit. And another thing that is beneficial is to go through every part of your body and feel it relax. Start with your feet and slowly work up. Whatever you choose to relax and your attention begins to wander, gently bring it back to the meditation. There is no need to force out thoughts and stop them, since that would not be allowing. Thoughts are part of meditation and you will have them. So just gently bring your attention back whenever your mind wanders. When I am relaxed and my mind is clear, it is like a dreamlike state. It almost feels like I am asleep, but I am not. Almost like a lucid dream. I am able to think of absolutely nothing, and I am right there in the moment. Background noises do not bother me since I do not think about them. When I come out of meditation, I feel so relaxed and peaceful. All the stress, tension, and negative thoughts that have built up to that point are gone. It's like a refreshing nap, but I am not sleeping. The more you practice, the easier it will be to relax. Over time, you will begin to incorporate it into your everyday life and realize that all of life is meditation. Even just a few minutes a day can be beneficial. You just have to make time for it. But in the end, it will be worth it, will it not? If you're just beginning, I recommend finding a guided meditation. There are plenty of free guided meditation audio recordings out there. One I have used and continue to use is Meditation OASIS. There is a free podcast on iTunes you can download, and I'd say it is really great. I'll put a link in the description for anyone who is interested. You can also make your own audio recordings or even listen to relaxing music such as ambient or new age, or even nature sounds. Before I move on, I would like to share a very interesting experience I had one time when meditating. I was able to achieve such a deep relaxation of my mind and body and experience something I have never had before. I want to compare it to a near-death experience, but my body wasn't dying. I saw a light and another person. They seemed to be important and know what was going on. I asked a question saying, what if we don't actually exist at all? I immediately felt like my physical body was fading, as if it did not exist. It was such an unusual sensation. I came back to my body because I feared I was fading away, but there was nothing to fear. I came back and had to write down what I experienced since it was amazing. Self-hypnosis, also known as auto-hypnosis, is a form of hypnosis which is self-induced and is generally accompanied by positive affirmations and self-suggestions. You do not need to be a master hypnotist to do this. Really, all you need is the motivation and determination, as well as being able to relax and concentrate. That is it. It's nothing to be scared of since you are in full control of the situation. Positive affirmations generally accompany this, and they are just short sentences that bring about positive change. I will talk a little bit more about them in the next section. In order to do self-hypnosis, you need to be relaxed and able to concentrate. It is often best to start meditating, and once you feel you are ready, take it to the next step. The difference between meditation and self-hypnosis is that meditation is generally about calming the mind and thoughts, while self-hypnosis is generally about rewriting part of the subconscious to invoke change. I first began self-hypnosis shortly after I found meditation. I started with guided self-hypnosis. One thing I wanted to change back then was my anxiety when doing class presentations. Whenever I would get up to present and talk in front of the class, I would freeze and tense up, practically forgetting everything I rehearsed. It was absolutely awful, and I really wanted to change it. I found a self-hypnosis audio session for eliminating fear when speaking publicly. It was an amazing experience. The announcer was a male, and he began just by getting the user relaxed so they can enter the subconscious mind. This lasted for a little while, and he did a countdown from 10. Then he began to say these positive affirmations that I was to repeat to myself during the session. They were directly related to public speaking. He kept saying them over and over, and I repeated them over and over to myself. A little while later, it was time to come back to consciousness, and he was going to count to 10. He stated before even getting into the hypnosis that when it was time to wake up, that I may not remember the session since all of it was subconscious. Think of it as a dream. So anyway, he began counting to 10, and when he hit 10, he said, wake up, wake up. And it was like, wow, I don't remember what happened. It was like a big gap of missing time, and it was just like so surprising to me. After several attempts at this, I actually had a paper I had to present in front of the class, and guess what? The anxiety I had was practically non-existent. I was immediately like, oh my gosh, I cannot believe I am talking in front of the class exactly as I rehearsed with confidence. It was a complete turnaround, and it just got better from there. I even utilized it greatly when transitioning from male to female. Before I began even taking hormones, I found self-hypnosis audio recordings for feminization, specifically targeted at male to females. There are so many out there, so you can find one for yourself. Anyway, there were things for releasing the fears associated with transitioning, having a female mind, creating the female sexual identity, as well as physical things like facial feminization, hormones, feminization of the voice. I did it every day, and over time felt so much more feminine. One of the things I did was imagine I was in a dark room with a light coming from the sky. Inside the light, I envisioned a female, the female I wanted to be. I started at the toes and slowly worked up to the head, paying attention to every little detail and how I wanted my ideal body to be, saying the things I wanted to change. When I saw the girl that was perfect, I slowly stepped into the light and became her, opening my eyes as her and feeling like I have always been her, repeating to myself that I was her. And I noticed when I transitioned that practically all those things changed that I wanted, when some weren't supposed to be affected by hormones. For example, my shoe size, voice, and many other things. So it was remarkable. So self-hypnosis can benefit anyone. If there is something you want to change about yourself, this is a very powerful tool since it utilizes the subconscious mind, which is the root of your being. Changing things in your subconscious will change things in your conscious world. I find self-hypnosis extremely beneficial for those suffering from mental illness or just anxiety in general. I think it is a very powerful way of dealing with dissociative disorders as well. So if we're on the topic of dissociative identity disorder, I'm sure some people can see the similarity of what I mentioned earlier. It's like the altered states of an individual's personality was split up to handle a negative situation, such as the abuse, for example. The brain cannot deal with negativity, so it will try and compensate by creating a personality that can deal with it since the host cannot. It is amazing what the brain can do, but sometimes what it does can be disastrous to our conscious life. I also found information stating that many people with DID are highly hypnotizable, and this actually makes so much sense when you really think about it. For example, a child that has endured severe trauma will dissociate from it by believing it happened to someone else. The power of thought is incredible. That constant belief becomes so strong that it splits the personality. Sometimes it may start as just an imaginary friend, but when it stays with them as they age, it becomes very real and can turn into complete dissociation where the host identity and created alter will coexist, a lot of times not simultaneously conscious. The alter may develop a life of its own and may be aware of the host identity, for many times it was created by the host. The host, however, may not be aware of the alters because it dissociated from the trauma and blocked it out. The blocked out parts and or repressed feelings are usually the altered personality states, and they will occasionally hold the answers about the past and possess what the host and or other parts are suppressing. All of this correlates with hypnosis because, in this case, the abused child practically hypnotized themselves unknowingly, telling itself that it didn't happen to them and believing 100% that it happened to someone or something else. But since it did not, that strong belief created a split personality. The switch between alters becomes part of hypnosis, often coming down to triggers. which would explain why people with DID are highly hypnotizable, since they are subconsciously very skilled at it, but may not know how to consciously utilize it. This is why there can be very distinct changes in personality, so much to the point of drastic physical changes that one may not normally expect. The amnesia fits right into this as well. It is very much altered states of consciousness and hypnotism when you get right down to it. So it's not so complex after all. The reason I brought all that up is because I find hypnosis to be a very powerful way of discovering these fragments of memory, the altered personalities, as well as the triggers. That is the key word, trigger. What is that trigger and why is it what it is? Perhaps the trigger is what split the personality to begin with. With self-hypnosis, you can discover these things and change or even get rid of the triggers for anything, not just dissociation. For example, if you have a lot of anxiety when in public, you could create a trigger for yourself that whenever you scratch your neck, that you will be brought down to a relaxed state. Anything is possible. So as I mentioned in the previous segment, positive affirmations are just short sentences that bring about positive change. Something as simple as "I can do it" is a positive affirmation. There is a tip I have for anyone interested in creating positive affirmations. The number one key is to keep it positive. For an example, if you're trying to lose weight by eating better, cutting out junk food, and exercising more, the first inclination for someone may be to create an affirmation that says, "I'm not eating junk food anymore." That is wrong. Here's why. The affirmation uses a negative word, not. You're saying that you are not eating junk food anymore. While that may sound positive to your conscious mind, your subconscious cannot handle negativity like that and will dismiss it. Instead, a better affirmation would be to say, "I'm eating healthy, I'm losing weight, I'm exercising, I enjoy eating healthy and exercising," those sorts of things. Let's say you frequently have panic attacks when in public. Instead of thinking, "Oh, I'm going to have an anxiety attack if I go there or do this," or while you are out saying, "I'm freaking out, I'm panicking." When you think like that, then you know what? You're going to freak out and have a panic attack. If you keep it positive instead, like, "I'm going to be calm, I am calm, things are going well," as well as breathing and finding what relaxes you, then you know what? You will more than likely be just fine. Combine it with self-hypnosis to create a trigger so you can get back to a relaxed state to avoid the anxiety altogether. So I hope this video was informative. Thanks for watching.